Picture a turtle the size of a compact car, weighing more than a great white shark, cruising through ancient seas with bone-crushing jaws. Sounds impossible, right? But 80 million years ago, such creatures were real, while Tyrannosaurus rex terrorized the land. An even stranger titan ruled the waves, Archelon ischyros, the largest turtle ever to exist. This wasn't the gentle, slow-moving reptile we know today. This was a 3-ton predator with a meter-long skull and a beak powerful enough to shatter shells and bones. It patrolled a vast inland sea that split North America in half, competing with mosasaurs, prehistoric sharks, and diving seabirds. Tonight, we resurrect this forgotten leviathan and explore the lost world it called home. When turtles were titans. Today, turtles are symbols of peace, patience, and vulnerability. We protect them, keep them as pets, and watch documentaries about their perilous journeys to the sea. They seem harmless, almost fragile, struggling against a world that's become too dangerous for them. But this wasn't always their story. Rewind 80 million years to the Late Cretaceous period, and turtles were anything but gentle. During this era, sea turtles experienced a dramatic evolutionary trend, gigantism. Multiple species grew to enormous sizes, dominating marine ecosystems alongside the most fearsome predators Earth has ever produced. Among these giants, one species stood above all others, Archelon ischyros. The name means ruling turtle, and it earned that title through sheer size and predatory prowess. At its largest, Archelon measured 15 feet from head to tail and 13 feet from flipper to flipper. It weighed up to 3 metric tons, heavier than the largest great white sharks ever recorded. To understand just how massive this is, imagine standing next to a modern leatherback sea turtle, the largest living turtle species. An adult leatherback can reach 7 feet long and weigh 2,000 pounds. Now double that size. That's Archelon. But size alone doesn't make a predator. What made Archelon truly formidable was its unique combination of adaptations. A streamlined body for efficient swimming, powerful flippers for propulsion, and most importantly, a crushing beak capable of shattering the hardest shells. Archelon's skull stretched over 3 feet long, housing jaw muscles of tremendous power. Unlike modern turtles, which primarily eat vegetation or soft-bodied prey, Archelon was equipped to tackle armored animals that other predators couldn't touch. Its beak functioned like a biological nutcracker, capable of crushing through exoskeletons, shells, and even bones. This predatory specialization allowed Archelon to exploit food sources unavailable to competitors. While other marine reptiles chased fish or hunted soft-bodied squid, Archelon could feast on heavily armored crustaceans and mollusks, some of which grew to enormous sizes themselves. Anatomy of a giant. Archelon's body was a masterpiece of evolutionary engineering, perfectly adapted for life in late Cretaceous seas. But perhaps its most unusual feature was its shell, or rather, the lack of a traditional one. Most turtles possess rigid shells made of solid bone, covered by tough, plate-like scales called scuts. These shells function like modified rib cages, protecting vital organs from predators and environmental hazards. Land turtles typically have tall, domed shells they can retract into for protection. Sea turtles have flatter, more streamlined shells for efficient swimming. Archelon was different. While it did possess bony elements in its shell, they were relatively thin and incomplete. Instead of a solid carapace, Archelon's upper shell was covered by soft, leathery tissue, similar to modern leatherback sea turtles. This adaptation might seem like a vulnerability. After all, wouldn't a softer shell make Archelon more susceptible to predators? But the trade-off was worth it. The leathery shell provided Archelon with a more streamlined body plan, reducing drag as it moved through water. It also made Archelon more buoyant, requiring less energy to maintain position in the water column. Archelon probably wasn't breaking any speed records. Its massive size and body plan weren't designed for rapid pursuit. but it could propel itself through water with surprising efficiency, using powerful strokes of its enormous flippers. Those flippers were remarkable structures in their own right, each one stretched over 6 feet long, providing tremendous surface area for propulsion. The front flippers powered forward movement, while the rear flippers provided steering and stability. Together, they allowed Archelon to cruise through ancient seas with grace that belied its enormous size. But Archelon's most impressive feature was undoubtedly its skull and jaws. The skull was elongated and robust, measuring over 3 feet in length. The jaws were lined not with teeth, but with a sharp, keratinous beak similar to modern turtles, except vastly more powerful. Biomechanical analysis suggests Archelon's bite force was extraordinary, capable of generating pressure sufficient to crush thick shells and hard exoskeletons. This allowed Archelon to feed on prey that other predators couldn't access, giving it a unique ecological niche. The menu of a monster. What does a 3-ton turtle eat? In Archelon's case, the answer is almost anything with a shell. Archelon's crushing beak opened up a world of prey unavailable to most marine predators of its time. Consider the ammonites, spiral-shelled cephalopods that filled late Cretaceous seas. These relatives of modern squid and octopuses came in astonishing variety, from species measuring just a few inches to giants exceeding 6 feet in diameter. Their shells were divided into chambers separated by walls called septa, which reinforced the structure and allowed them to withstand pressure at depth. For most predators, these shells presented an impenetrable barrier, but not for Archelon. With its powerful beak, Archelon could crack open even large ammonite shells, accessing the soft tissue inside. Fossil evidence of crushed ammonite shells with distinctive bite patterns supports this feeding behavior. Baculites, a particularly unusual type of ammonite with straight rather than spiral shells, may have been especially common prey. Some baculite species grew up to 6 feet long, providing a substantial meal for a hungry Archelon. The turtle could bite through the shell at any point, crushing the chambers and extracting the soft cephalopod within. Crustaceans were also on the menu. The late Cretaceous seas teemed with crabs, lobsters, and other hard-shelled arthropods. Many grew to impressive sizes, but their protective exoskeletons were no match for Archelon's crushing bite. Mollusks of all types, clams, oysters, scallops, would have been easy prey. Archelon could simply bite down, crushing the shell and consuming the soft tissue inside. This feeding strategy is similar to modern loggerhead sea turtles, which specialize in eating hard-shell prey. But Archelon wasn't exclusively a shell crusher. Evidence suggests it also consumed soft-bodied prey when available. Jellyfish, squid, and other cephalopods without protective shells would have been easy meals, requiring no shell-crushing effort. Like modern leatherback turtles, which feed primarily on jellyfish, Archelon may have supplemented its diet with these abundant, easy-to-catch prey items. The Western Interior Seaway. To understand Archelon's world, we must first understand the extraordinary environment it inhabited. The Western Interior Seaway, one of the most remarkable marine ecosystems in Earth's history. During the Late Cretaceous, much of North America was underwater. A vast, shallow sea stretched from the Arctic Ocean to the Gulf of Mexico, splitting the continent in half. This wasn't a narrow channel or inlet. At its widest, the seaway exceeded 600 miles across and reached depths of 3,000 feet. The seaway formed due to tectonic activity around 100 million years ago. The Farallon Plate, an ancient oceanic plate, was slowly subducting beneath the North American plate. This process created the Rocky Mountains in the west, but also warped the lithosphere downward, creating a massive depression running north to south. Sea levels were already elevated during the Cretaceous, over 600 feet higher than today, so this depression quickly flooded. The result was an inland sea unlike anything in the modern world, a marine highway connecting polar and tropical waters. The southern portions of the seaway, near what is now Texas and Mexico, were warm and nutrient-rich. Here, primitive reef-building organisms called rudist bivalves constructed massive, three-dimensional structures along the seafloor. These rudist reefs functioned like modern coral reefs, providing habitat for countless species of fish, crustaceans, mollusks, and marine reptiles. Northern portions of the seaway, stretching through present-day Montana and Canada, were cooler but still biologically rich. Here, oysters, bryozoans, and sponges created complex seafloor habitats that attracted foraging predators. This was Archelon's domain. Using its powerful beak, Archelon could dig through sediments and biogenic structures, searching for buried mollusks and crustaceans. It could cruise along the seafloor, crushing shells and extracting the nutritious tissue inside. But Archelon wasn't alone in these rich waters. The Western Interior Seaway supported an astonishing diversity of life, from microscopic plankton to apex predators exceeding 50 feet in length. Competitors and threats. The Western Interior Seaway was crowded with predators, each competing for the same abundant resources. Archelon faced constant competition from creatures both familiar and utterly alien to modern eyes. One of its most unusual competitors was Hesperornis, a flightless seabird that hunted underwater. Imagine a penguin, but larger, more streamlined, and equipped with teeth. Hesperornis measured up to 5 feet long and possessed powerful legs for diving and swimming. Unlike modern birds, Hesperornis had teeth, lots of them. These teeth weren't set in individual sockets like mammal teeth, but rested in grooves along the jaw. They were sharp, curved backward, and perfect for grasping slippery fish. Hesperornis was a pursuit predator, chasing down schooling fish with remarkable speed and agility. While Hesperornis and Archelon occasionally competed for similar prey, the seabird was hardly a threat to the giant turtle. The real dangers came from much larger predators lurking in the depths. Mosasaurs were the apex predators of late Cretaceous seas, marine reptiles that evolved from land-dwelling lizards. They were fast, powerful, and utterly voracious, attacking virtually anything they encountered. The largest mosasaur in the Western Interior Seaway was Tylosaurus, a 50-foot monster with jaws capable of crushing bone. Tylosaurus was an indiscriminate predator. Fossil evidence shows it consumed other mosasaurs, plesiosaurs, sharks, fish, squid, ammonites, seabirds, and even giant sea turtles. Paleontologists have discovered Tylosaurus stomach contents containing remains of Protostega, the second largest turtle ever to exist, measuring up to 13 feet long. If Tylosaurus could kill and eat Protostega, it could certainly prey on Archelon. An adult Archelon would have been a formidable target. Its size and leathery shell provided some protection, but a determined Tylosaurus could overpower even this giant turtle. Smaller predators also posed threats, particularly to juvenile Archelon. Squalocorax, known as the crow shark, was a medium-sized predator with serrated teeth adapted for slicing flesh. While it primarily hunted smaller fish and scavenged carcasses, Squalocorax was opportunistic and aggressive. Fossil evidence shows Squalocorax tooth marks on pterosaur bones, suggesting these sharks could snatch flying reptiles from the air or attack them while they dove for fish. Young Archelon, still small and vulnerable, would have been easy prey for these opportunistic hunters. Life cycle and behavior. Like modern sea turtles, Archelon faced its greatest challenges during reproduction. Despite being a dominant predator in the ocean, Archelon was vulnerable on land, and its eggs and hatchlings were nearly defenseless. Female Archelon would have hauled themselves onto beaches to lay eggs, a laborious process for such massive animals. Using their powerful flippers, they would dig nests in the sand, deposit dozens of eggs, and cover them before returning to the sea. This nesting behavior left eggs vulnerable to predators. The Late Cretaceous shorelines of the Western Interior Seaway were patrolled by numerous predators, including small theropod dinosaurs like troodontids. These intelligent, bird-like dinosaurs were perfectly adapted to raid turtle nests, digging up eggs and consuming them. When hatchlings emerged, they faced a gauntlet of predators during their desperate dash to the water. Birds, pterosaurs, small dinosaurs, and coastal predators would have taken a heavy toll. Only a tiny fraction of hatchlings would survive to adulthood. Those that did survive faced years of growth before reaching their enormous adult size. Juvenile Archelon likely inhabited shallow coastal waters where food was abundant and large predators were less common. As they grew, they would venture into progressively deeper waters, eventually joining the adult population in the open seaway. Adult Archelon may have been solitary, like most modern sea turtles, or they may have gathered in areas with abundant food. Fossil evidence is insufficient to determine their social behavior with certainty, but their ecology suggests they were primarily solitary foragers. Interestingly, Archelon may have hosted its own miniature ecosystem. Barnacles and other encrusting organisms likely colonized Archelon's massive shell and flippers, creating a mobile habitat. This commensal relationship, common among modern whales and sea turtles, would have provided the barnacles with transportation through nutrient-rich waters while causing minimal harm to Archelon, unless barnacle loads became excessive, potentially causing drag or skin irritation. The end of an era. For millions of years, Archelon thrived in the Western Interior Seaway. But around 74 million years ago, long before the asteroid impact that would end the age of dinosaurs, Archelon vanished forever. Its extinction wasn't sudden or catastrophic. Instead, Archelon fell victim to gradual environmental changes that made its lifestyle increasingly difficult. The Western Interior Seaway was beginning to close, draining as tectonic forces lifted the seafloor and sea levels began to drop. As the seaway fragmented into smaller bodies of water, Archelon's habitat shrank. Populations became isolated, genetic diversity declined, and competition for resources intensified. Archelon found itself competing with mosasaurs, sharks, and other predators for diminishing prey in shrinking habitats. Climate change also played a role. The Late Cretaceous was experiencing gradual cooling, favoring animals with better thermoregulation. As a large reptile, Archelon's metabolism was tied to environmental temperatures. Cooler waters would have slowed its metabolism, reduced its activity levels, and made it less competitive against warm-blooded predators. Nesting sites became scarcer as coastlines shifted and changed. Predation pressure on eggs and hatchlings may have increased as terrestrial predators adapted to exploit this reliable food source. The combination of factors proved insurmountable. Around 74 million years ago, Archelon disappeared from the fossil record. The largest turtle ever to exist was gone, leaving behind only scattered fossils in the rocks of the ancient seaway. But the story of turtles didn't end with Archelon. Other turtle lineages survived the Late Cretaceous, endured the asteroid impact that killed the dinosaurs, and eventually diversified into the many species we know today. None would ever match Archelon's size, but they would prove remarkably resilient, surviving environmental changes that destroyed countless other lineages. Archelon ischyros ruled Late Cretaceous seas as the largest turtle ever to exist, a 3-ton predator with bone-crushing jaws. Though it vanished 74 million years ago, its legacy endures in the turtles that survive to the present day. These remarkable reptiles, from tiny box turtles to massive leatherbacks, carry forward an evolutionary lineage stretching back hundreds of millions of years. Archelon may be gone, but the turtle dynasty it represented continues, a testament to resilience and adaptation.